In 1994, 12 kids played football on screen. 30 years later, one was dead at 33, one was knocked unconscious on a New York sidewalk, and one vanished from Hollywood. Not because he failed, but because he chose his children over fame. This is the real story of Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis as Danny O'Shea. At the height of his Hollywood career, Rick Moranis made a decision that no studio executive could have scripted. He simply walked away. Not for scandal, not for burnout, but for something far more quietly devastating. Born Frederick Allen Moranis on April 18, 1953 in Toronto, Canada. Moranis didn't begin in front of cameras. He began behind a microphone working as a radio DJ while still in high school. That instinct for timing, for rhythm, carried him through SCTV in 1980, then into Ghostbusters, Spaceballs, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. By 1994, when he stepped onto the Little Giant set as Danny O'Shea, the overlooked brother coaching a team of lovable misfits, he was one of the most bankable comedic actors in Hollywood. And almost no one knew he was already breaking apart inside. His wife Ann Belsky had died of breast cancer in 1991 at just 35 years old, leaving behind 2 young children. During the filming of Little Giants, Devon Sawa would later recall that Moranis would complete his scenes quietly and leave a man visibly carrying something the cameras couldn't capture. By 1997, Moranis made his choice official. He stepped away from live-action film entirely to raise Mitchell and Rachel as a single father. He turned down Ghostbusters sequels, skipped reunion projects, and retreated into a life deliberately built around his children rather than his career. Then in October 2020, the world was reminded he still existed not through a film premiere, but through surveillance footage showing him being punched to the ground by a stranger near Central Park. He was 67. He recovered, and he endured. Now 72 Moranis lives quietly in New York, with a long-rumored return in the Shrunk sequel still hovering on the horizon. Some legends don't need a comeback, they simply never left what mattered. Devon Sawa as Junior Floyd. He was 15 years old, already too tall for the role, and the production team's quiet solution was to film him in socks so he wouldn't tower over his 10-year-old castmates. That small, almost comic detail from the set of Little Giants captures everything about Devon Sawa in 1994, a kid caught between 2 worlds not quite fitting anywhere, but impossible to ignore. Born September 7, 1978, in Vancouver. British Columbia, Sawa grew up as the youngest of 3 siblings, raised by a Polish-Canadian mechanic father and a mother of diverse heritage. He started performing in school plays before landing commercial work at 14. His film debut as Junior Floyd, the golden-armed quarterback torn between loyalty and love, made teenage girls across America forget the football entirely. He wasn't just playing a heartthrob, he was one. Then came Casper in 1995, Final Destination in 2000, and the Eminem Stan video, Dr. Dre personally selecting him after watching his performance. But behind the momentum, something was fracturing. After relocating to Los Angeles at 18, Sawa drifted from auditions into nightclubs. Arrests followed. He arrived to sets visibly impaired. When Final Destination 2 entered production in 2003, the studio quietly decided he was too great a liability to invite back. His own agents eventually urged him to leave Hollywood altogether and return to Canada. The lowest point came at a family Christmas gathering when he showed up so heavily intoxicated that the people he loved most could no longer pretend everything was fine. He got sober in 2006. He married Canadian producer Donnie Sahanovich in 2013. They have a son born in 2014 and a daughter born in 2016. Now 47, Sawa lives in Woodland Hills, California. Nearly 2 decades clean, starring in Chucky and Hard Eyes, quietly proving that second acts are real. Some people don't survive Hollywood. He chose to outlast it. Ed O'Neill as Kevin O'Shea. After being cut from the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1969, Ed O'Neill stood at a crossroads so dark he later admitted he nearly joined a local organized crime syndicate until his father asked him one simple question. Are you ready to go to prison? That question may have quietly saved American television. Born April 12, 1946, in Youngstown, Ohio, O'Neill was the eldest of 5 children in a working-class Irish Catholic family. His father hauled freight and worked steel mills. His mother served the community as a social worker. O'Neill earned a football scholarship, transferred to Youngstown State, competed as a defensive lineman, and chased the NFL dream only to be cut in training camp competing against future Steel Curtain legends Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood. He became a substitute social studies teacher instead. Then, almost accidentally, acting found him. By 1994, when he stepped into Little Giants as the swaggering Kevin O'Shea, O'Neill was already Al Bundy, the working-class anti-hero of Married, with children airing since 1987. Director Dwayne Dunham's instruction was refreshingly simple: just play Mike Ditka. O'Neill delivered something richer, a man so conditioned to winning, he had forgotten how to be human. His marriage to actress Catherine Russoff, which began in 1986, weathered a separation between 1989 and 1993, before the couple reconciled, ultimately building a life together that Hollywood rarely manufactures genuine, lasting, and private. They have 2 daughters, Claire and Sophia. Away from cameras, O'Neill quietly earned a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in 2007 after 22 years of training under Grandmaster Rory and Gracie. Modern Family arrived in 2009, delivering 3 Emmy nominations and 4 Screen Actors Guild Awards. In 2024, at 78, he returned to television in FX's Clipped. Now 79, O'Neill represents something increasingly rare, a career built entirely on reinvention, not rescue. Failure, it turns out, was simply his first rehearsal. Shauna Waldron as Becky Icebox O'Shea. In 1994, a 12-year-old girl from Glendale, California, walked onto a football field, put on a helmet, and quietly changed what little girls believed they were allowed to want. Born January 25, 1982. Shauna Langill Waldron grew up in suburban Los Angeles, the daughter of John and Mary Ethel Waldron. Before cameras ever found her, she was building a quiet resume through commercial work, the kind of unglamorous groundwork that most child actors endure without recognition. Her actual film debut was technically a movie called The New Kid, but that film was never released. Little Giants became her first screen moment the world ever saw, and Becky Icebox O'Shea made it count. Tough, determined, and utterly uninterested in being rescued, Icebox was something genuinely rare in 1990s family cinema. A girl who was simply the best player on the field, full stop. No asterisk, no apology. What followed was a career that moved steadily if quietly forward. She played Michael Douglas's daughter in The American President in 1995, appeared in Disney's Mr. Headmistress in 1998, and landed a recurring role on CBS's Ladies' Man in 1999 alongside Betty White. But Hollywood's appetite for the actresses it once celebrated as children has always been inconsistent, and by the mid-2000s, Waldron pivoted, producing documentary films Char Actor in 2009 and Char Actor: The Interviews in 2010, intimate portraits of veteran character actors including Peter Falk and Harry Dean Stanton. She married filmmaker Adam Dick and built a life deliberately outside the spotlight. Now 44, Waldron works as an antiques dealer, occasionally appears at fan conventions, and in February 2024 reunited with former castmates Todd Bosley and Marcus Toji to sign memorabilia for Kansas City charity Operation Breakthrough. Icebox never needed saving then. She still doesn't now. Jon Paul Steuer as Johnny Viper Venaro. Few remember the smallest player on the field, but his real story would become the most devastating. In Little Giants, Jon Paul Steuer's Johnny Viper Venaro was quick, elusive, almost invisible until the moment he mattered. There was something endearing in that presence, a child who didn't need size to prove himself, only timing. Audiences saw a kid having fun. They never saw how little time he would have left to hold on to that innocence. Born March 27, 1984, in Escondido, California, Steuer was already asking to act by age 3. Within a year, he was performing at mall showcases, catching the attention of a talent agent. At 6, he became the first actor to portray Alexander Rozhenko on Star Trek: The Next Generation, enduring hours in a Klingon mask, something no other child could tolerate. By 10, he was balancing roles, including a recurring part on Grace Under Fire, quietly building a career that seemed destined to grow. Then it fractured. Around age 12, Steuer left acting entirely after inappropriate behavior on the Grace Under Fire set, involving lead actress Brett Butler, an incident widely reported at the time. The industry that had embraced him offered no real protection. He disappeared from Hollywood overnight. Years later, he resurfaced in Denver, then Portland, channeling himself into music under the name Johnny P. Jules, forming punk bands and building a new identity. In 2015, he co-founded a vegan restaurant, Harvest, at the Bindery, carving out something stable, something his own. On January 1st, 2018, at just 33, Jon Paul Steuer died by suicide in Portland, Oregon. By 2026, his story remains a quiet echo, remembered by fans, musicians, and those who understand how fragile early fame can be. If his life suggests anything about the future, it is that his legacy will not be in the roles he played, but in the conversations he forces us to continue. Some stories fade on screen, but never truly let go. If this story got you, hit subscribe, because 11 more cast members are coming, and at least one of them will genuinely surprise you. Todd Bosley as Jake Berman. Not every child star burns out. Some simply never stop showing up, and Todd Bosley is proof of that quiet, stubborn resilience. Born July 29, 1984 in Overland Park, Kansas, Bosley didn't find acting through any grand ambition. His tap dance instructor noticed something in him and nudged his mother toward auditions. After a brief appearance in a local grocery store commercial, Bosley recorded a self-taped audition and mailed it directly to the Little Giants producers. After a long selection process, the 10-year-old from Kansas got the part. As Jake Berman, the runny-nosed, motor-mouthed comic relief of the Little Giants squad, Bosley delivered some of the film's most quotable moments with the effortless timing of someone twice his age. He didn't need the most screen time. He just needed one expression and perfect rhythm. What followed was a career that never fully dimmed. In 1996, he appeared alongside Robin Williams in Jack. Television kept calling Seinfeld Reba That's So Raven, Scrubs House, iCarly, a steady, unglamorous, genuinely respectable working actor's path through 3 decades of American entertainment. Now 41, Bosley has transitioned largely into voice acting, a lane that suits both his talent and his longevity. In February 2024, he reunited with Shauna Waldron and Marcus Toji, signing Little Giants memorabilia for Kansas City charity Operation Breakthrough, a gesture as unassuming and warm as the man himself. Some careers don't peak, they simply persist, and that's enough. Marcus Toji as Marcus the Toe. He was cast as a football kicker who couldn't reliably kick a football, and that unpredictability became the most charming thing about him. Marcus Toji arrived on the Little Giants set with a respectable television resume already behind him, guest roles on Drexel's Class Dream On and Beverly Hills 9021, but absolutely zero understanding of American football. He later admitted in interviews that he didn't know what a line of scrimmage was before filming began, and that his early attempts at kicking looked embarrassingly soccer style. That honest incompetence somehow made Marcus the Toe feel completely real. A kid trying his best with skills nobody could quite predict. The audience loved him for exactly that reason. After Little Giants, Toji built something genuinely impressive, not a career defined by one breakout moment, but by sustained, consistent presence across 3 decades. Boy Meets World, Seventh Heaven, Zoe 101, House Criminal Minds, and Maniac kept him on screen while voice acting became his quietest and most enduring strength. Hey Arnold Rocket, Power Static Shock. The legend of Cora and We Bare Bears carried his voice into living rooms long after casual fans stopped recognizing his face. In February 2024, he joined Shauna Waldron and Todd Bosley for the film's 30th anniversary reunion signing memorabilia for charity, Unhurried Grateful Present. Now in his mid-30s, Toji continues working steadily, proof that longevity in this industry belongs to those who never confused visibility with value. Quiet careers, it turns out, can echo the longest. Matthew McCurley as Newbie. 30 years later, fans still quote The Annexation of Puerto Rico, a play name invented by a 10-year-old fictional genius. The actor behind it quietly walked away from Hollywood altogether and built an entirely different kind of brilliant career. As Newbie, the pint-sized tactical mastermind of The Little Giants, Matthew McCurley delivered something genuinely rare in children's ensemble films, a character whose intelligence drove the plot, rather than merely decorated it. Newbie didn't need athleticism. He needed a whiteboard, a disguise, and absolute confidence, and McCurley gave him all three with disarming naturalness. What made his disappearance from the industry so unexpected was how effortlessly talented he appeared on screen. After Little Giants, McCurley continued acting into the late 1990s, before quietly stepping away entirely by 2000. No scandal, no public explanation, just a young man who apparently looked at Hollywood and chose a different playing field. He pursued professional writing, explored law, and eventually built a career in the gaming industry, working as a content specialist at Riot Games, the studio behind League of Legends, one of the most influential gaming companies on the planet. It is in its own way a perfectly Newbie outcome. Abandon the obvious path, find the angle nobody saw coming, and execute it completely. Now, in his late 30s, McCurley exists almost entirely outside public life, with no indication he intends to return to entertainment. The smartest player often knows exactly when to leave the field. Danny Pritchette, as Tad Simpson. Not every story needs a dramatic arc. Sometimes the most honest thing a person can do is show up, play their part with heart, and then quietly return to a life the cameras were never meant to follow. Danny Pritchette wore jersey number 21 as Tad Simpson, one of the enthusiastic, scrappy core members of the Little Giants squad, whose energy helped make the team feel genuinely alive on screen. Tad wasn't the playmaker or the comic relief. He was something equally important, the heartbeat of the huddle, the kid who made the team look like a team rather than a collection of individual performances. Without players like Tad, the chemistry that made audiences root so fiercely for the Little Giants simply wouldn't have held together. After Little Giants wrapped in 1994, Pritchette left almost no public footprint in the entertainment industry. No follow-up credits of note, no public interviews, no documented return to film or television. He became, in the most dignified sense, a private person, someone who participated in something meaningful and then chose an ordinary life over an uncertain Hollywood one. That decision, rarely celebrated and almost never documented, is perhaps more common among child actors than the industry ever acknowledges. By 2026, Pritchette remains essentially absent from public record, a quiet reminder that not every participant in a beloved film owes the world a second chapter. Some contributions simply speak for themselves across 30 years of rewatches. Troy Simmons as Rashid Hot Hands Hannon. He had the most electric nickname on the roster, and almost no one remembers what happened to him after the final whistle. As Rashid Hot Hands Hannon, wearing number 88, Troy Simmons played the Little Giants' secret weapon, the wide receiver whose hands were so reliable that the ball simply stuck. In a film full of memorable personalities, Hot Hands represented pure instinct, the kid who didn't need a speech or a backstory, just open field and a good throw. Every underdog team needs someone like that, someone who simply runs and catches and delivers. What makes Simmons' story quietly poignant is precisely its absence of documentation. After Little Giants wrapped in 1994, he left no traceable footprint in the entertainment industry, no follow-up credits, no public interviews, no record of return. He is, in every verifiable sense, someone who stepped onto a film set as a child, contributed something genuine to a story millions still love, and then disappeared back into an ordinary life without ceremony or announcement. By 2026, Troy Simmons remains essentially unknown beyond that single credit. A reminder that for every child actor who chases the spotlight, there are others who simply let it pass. Not every player runs toward fame. Some just run. Joey Simran as Sean Murphy. Some people participate in something that lasts forever and then simply go live their lives. That quiet choice deserves its own kind of respect. Sean Murphy, wearing number 48, occupied the outermost edge of the Little Giants roster. The teammate who filled the huddle ran the drills and made the sideline look like a real team, rather than a handful of kids and a camera crew. He didn't have the zingers, the heroic catch, or the emotional arc. He had something more fundamental presence. And in ensemble filmmaking, that presence is never nothing. Joey Simran left virtually no public record after Little Giants wrapped in 1994. No subsequent credits appear in documented sources. No interviews surface. No social media footprint connects back to the film. He is by every available measure someone who experienced the unusual privilege of appearing in a beloved childhood classic and then chose deliberately or otherwise to simply move on. There is no tragedy in that. There is, if anything, a certain freedom. By 2026, Simran remains one of the film's most private alumni, unknown beyond a single jersey number in a single film that millions still remember warmly. Not every story needs an ending. Some just need a beginning worth keeping. 12 jerseys, 12 lives, 12 completely different answers to the same impossible question. What do you do after the cameras stop? Rick Moranis chose his children. Devon Sawa chose sobriety. Jon Paul Steuer never got the chance to choose again. So here's what we're asking you. Drop it in the comments. Which story hit you hardest and why? And what does that say about what you actually value in a life well lived? Next up on Legends of Classic Hollywood. Tell us which cast or era you want uncovered next. We read every comment. Subscribe. Stay close. The classics always have more to say. 12 jerseys, 12 lives, 12 completely different answers to the same impossible question. What do you do after the cameras stop? Rick Moranis chose his children. Devon Sawa chose sobriety. Jon Paul Steuer never got the chance to choose again. So here's what we're asking. You drop it in the comments which story hit you hardest and why. And what does that say about what you actually value in a life well lived? Next up on Legends of Classic, tell us which cast or era you want uncovered next. We read every comment. Subscribe. Stay close. The classics always have more to say.